There are moments in life when you feel a strange pull, a familiar discomfort that seems to echo through different relationships, jobs, or emotional cycles. You think you've moved on, left behind that person, quit that job, ended that phase, only to find yourself standing in a nearly identical situation again. It's not coincidence. According to the deeper wisdom of the psyche, you're circling a lesson you haven't yet learned. And when you try to walk away from what your soul agreed to experience, the universe doesn't punish you. It reorients you. Through symbolic events, emotional ruptures, or new challenges that carry the same essence, you are nudged back into the lesson. Carl Jung called this the confrontation with the unconscious, and until it's faced, it repeats. If you're ready to stop repeating and start integrating, leave a comment below saying, "I am ready to remember my soul's agreement." Carl Jung believed that the psyche is not random or chaotic, it is purposeful. At the core of Jung's philosophy lies the idea of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole by integrating the conscious and unconscious parts of the self. Soul contracts, though not a term Jung himself used, align with this idea. They represent unconscious agreements we make to encounter specific experiences or people in order to evolve. When we break these contracts, when we avoid, deny, or abandon the lesson, Jung's model suggests that the unconscious responds with symbols, projections, and emotional disruptions to bring us back to it. The principle of projection plays a central role here. What we reject within ourselves, we tend to project onto others. If a soul contract was meant to help us face our shadow, the disowned aspects of our psyche, breaking it only ensures that we meet that shadow again, often through new people or situations that trigger the same wounds. Jung insisted that whatever we do not bring to consciousness appears in our lives as fate. Thus, unlearned lessons return as if by cosmic design. Integration of the anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine aspects, is another vital concept. When these archetypes remain unbalanced or unrecognized, relationships suffer, and our external world reflects inner fragmentation. A broken soul contract may point to a refusal to acknowledge these forces within. Ultimately, the universe's repetition isn't punishment. It's a reflection of your psyche's drive toward wholeness. Every time you encounter the lesson again, you are being offered a new chance to respond not from fear or avoidance, but from conscious choice. That's the only way to truly fulfill the deeper agreement of the soul. There is a silent architecture beneath the events of our lives, and Jungian psychology tells us that this architecture is built from the contents of the unconscious. When we turn away from an emotional truth, suppress a painful realization, or abandon a spiritual commitment, that unprocessed material does not vanish. It merely sinks into the depths of the psyche, where it waits. This is what Jung referred to as repression, not erasure but burial. The psyche does not forget what the ego refuses to face. Instead, it recycles these energies, these unfinished soul contracts, until we are finally ready to encounter them consciously. Life often appears to move in circles, not lines. You leave a toxic relationship only to fall into another that feels eerily similar. You abandon a project driven by fear and later find yourself gripped by the same paralysis in a different endeavor. These recurrences are not failures, they are echoes. What returns is not the event itself, but the archetypal lesson behind it. And when the lesson is tied to a soul-level agreement, an inner vow to evolve through a particular trial, the universe responds to your detour with an elegant form of insistence, symbolic repetition. Jung emphasized that whatever is not made conscious will return as fate. This fate is not a punishment, but a form of guidance disguised as coincidence or frustration. The people you attract, the circumstances you find yourself in, the emotions that erupt without explanation, all are ways the unconscious demands to be seen. When we break a soul contract, consciously or not, we are breaking an inner promise to grow. But the psyche, far from passive, continues the journey with or without the ego's consent. The deeper self refuses stagnation. Repressed material returns in symbolic disguise. A controlling parent you thought you left behind may reappear as a domineering boss. A wound from childhood rejection may reemerge through adult abandonment. The setting changes, the actors shift, but the inner script remains until revised. That revision requires awareness. Until we pause and ask, why does this feel familiar? The lesson remains sealed behind emotional repetition. In Jung's framework, dreams play a vital role in signaling the return of repressed content. They speak the language of symbols, offering coded insight into what the conscious mind resists. A recurring nightmare, an image that haunts, or a motif that keeps appearing. These are all signposts of the soul's contract, trying to break through the noise. When soul-level growth is deferred, the unconscious becomes louder, more insistent, often using emotion as its messenger. Anxiety, rage, sorrow. These are not just feelings, they are clues. Often we try to escape these lessons by changing our external world. We switch partners, cities, careers, but what is within us travels with us. Until we confront the root cause, the new becomes a repetition of the old. That's why certain patterns seem to follow us no matter how far we run. The lesson we avoided doesn't disappear. It waits in a new form, a different face, a subtler disguise. Healing begins the moment we stop resisting the repetition and start interpreting it. To look at a recurring pattern and say, "What is this trying to teach me?" is to step back into alignment with the soul's contract. It is an act of psychological maturity and spiritual responsibility. It's also the first movement toward freedom, for as long as we deny the repressed, we are bound to its return. But when we meet it consciously, when we finally listen and respond with awareness, the cycle breaks, the lesson completes, and the soul moves forward. One of the most powerful concepts in Jungian psychology is projection, the unconscious act of attributing to others what we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. In the context of soul contracts, projection becomes the primary mechanism through which broken agreements are mirrored back to us. When a lesson is avoided, the psyche seeks an external canvas upon which to paint the internal conflict. That canvas is often another person, and through them we are forced to confront the very part of ourselves we tried to escape. Projection is not about illusion, it is about revelation. The person who irritates you, triggers you, or draws you in compulsively often carries a piece of your shadow, the rejected, denied, or undeveloped parts of your psyche. And the more unconscious the projection, the more intense the emotional response. You are not simply reacting to them, you are reacting to a hidden part of yourself that they unknowingly activate. In a soul contract dynamic, this can be particularly charged. You may meet someone who evokes deep emotional responses, love, fear, admiration, or rage, with disproportionate intensity. These individuals often act as mirrors, reflecting the very lesson you tried to bypass. If you ended a relationship without integrating its teachings, you are likely to project the unresolved content onto the next person who appears. The universe orchestrates these meetings not to torment you, but to offer another opportunity to meet yourself through another. Jung asserted that to confront the shadow is to undergo real transformation, but most people flee from their shadow projections, blaming the other, cutting ties, or defending their innocence. In doing so, they miss the golden opportunity the projection offers. The other person is not your enemy, they are your mirror. Breaking a soul contract often means walking away from that mirror prematurely, which only guarantees that another will appear, perhaps with a sharper reflection. It is not just enemies or irritants who carry projections, it is also the people we idealize, the mentor we worship, the partner we place on a pedestal, the guru we follow blindly. All may carry the disowned gold of our personality. The idealized projection is just as unconscious as the negative one. When a soul contract is broken by dependence or spiritual bypassing, the psyche responds by exposing the imbalance through disillusionment, betrayal, or collapse of the relationship. These are not punishments, they are wake-up calls, breaking the trance of projection. Recognizing a projection is painful because it means reclaiming what you have disowned. It means taking back the rage you placed on another's cruelty, or the love you insisted only they could embody. But this reclamation is essential for wholeness. Jung taught that the path to individuation requires owning both your darkness and your brilliance. Until you do, the world will continue to reflect it back to you through others, often in frustrating and confusing ways. The universe, through the intelligence of the psyche, arranges encounters that provoke this reflection. You keep attracting controlling partners because you haven't acknowledged your own repressed desire for power. You keep encountering abandonment because you haven't healed your inner sense of worthlessness. These aren't random patterns, they are living symbols, drawing your attention back to what your soul agreed to heal. When a soul contract is broken through avoidance of these projections, the lesson returns with new intensity. The patterns repeat, the emotions deepen, the urgency increases. Eventually, the cycle becomes unbearable, and that unbearable weight becomes the catalyst for awakening. You realize that the issue isn't out there. It never was. The healing you seek begins when you stop blaming the mirror and start studying your reflection. Only by turning inward can the projection dissolve. Only by owning the shadow can the pattern release. And only by embracing what others reflect, both the light and the dark, can you finally fulfill the deeper purpose of the soul contract. In that moment, the other is no longer a trigger, but a teacher, and you are no longer trapped in repetition, but invited into transformation. In Jungian psychology, the journey toward wholeness is not limited to confronting outer patterns or repressed emotions. It also requires the integration of internal archetypes. Among the most crucial of these are the anima and animus, the inner feminine in a man and the inner masculine in a woman, respectively. However, these energies are not bound by gender. They are universal psychic forces representing emotion, intuition, receptivity, will, logic, and direction. When they are out of balance or left unconscious, the psyche becomes fragmented, and the outer world begins to reflect that inner disharmony. Within this context, a soul contract is not merely an agreement between two people or between soul and destiny. It is often an agreement with oneself to heal and unify these inner polarities. Breaking a soul contract with oneself is one of the most subtle yet profound forms of inner abandonment. It happens when we suppress the qualities we need for balance and growth, when a woman rejects her inner authority and reason, or when a man avoids his emotional depth and vulnerability. In these cases, life begins to present situations that call out for the missing part. We may be drawn to someone who carries the energy we lack or disown, creating a deep psychological bond charged with unconscious expectations. But when the relationship fails, or when we walk away from it without integrating the lesson, the missing archetype does not vanish. It continues to seek expression, pushing the soul to re-engage with its inner contract. This is why certain people feel like soulmates or catalysts. They often carry the projected anima or animus and seem to awaken something dormant within us. The romantic pull is not always about the other person, it is about the internal energy they activate. When the relationship becomes strained or collapses, we may feel betrayed or confused, not realizing that the true wound is internal. We have mistaken the outer person for the inner force we have not yet embraced. And when the lesson is rejected, the universe repeats it. Through new partners, emotional turbulence, or a growing sense of internal division, Jung emphasized that these archetypes must be consciously integrated for psychic balance. The anima, when denied, can manifest in men as moodiness, passivity, or a craving for emotional validation. The animus, when unacknowledged in women, may emerge as rigid opinions, emotional detachment, or projection onto authority figures. In both cases, relationships become battlegrounds for these unseen forces. When a soul contract is broken in this domain, when we deny the inner union in favor of outer conflict, the psyche creates circumstances that demand reintegration. Often these dynamics show up in cycles of repeated relationships. You may keep attracting partners who feel emotionally unavailable because your own inner masculine has not yet been claimed. Or you may feel consumed by people who need emotional caretaking because your anima remains wounded and undeveloped. These are not mistakes. They are orchestrated repetitions of an inner soul contract, giving you the chance to turn inward and begin the work of union. The inner marriage of anima and animus is a sacred goal in Jungian thought. It symbolizes the union of opposites, the birth of creativity, clarity, and deeper love. But this union cannot happen through fantasy or bypassing. It requires facing the inner figures honestly, listening to the voice of intuition, allowing reason to coexist with emotion, giving space for both receptivity and assertiveness. This integration is often catalyzed by external relationships, but it is not fulfilled there. The soul contract begins within. When this contract is broken through avoidance, disconnection, or projection, the universe gently but persistently returns us to the work. It sends mirrors, heartbreaks, revelations, and each encounter is a chance to reclaim the disowned energy, to stop looking outward for completion, and begin cultivating wholeness from the inside. The lesson continues until the soul chooses to listen. True inner union is not perfection. It is presence. It is no longer needing someone else to carry what you've hidden from yourself. And when that integration begins, the need for painful repetition dissolves. The soul contract is fulfilled, not because the world changes, but because you have. At the heart of Jungian psychology lies the process of individuation, a lifelong journey toward becoming one's true, whole self. It is not about becoming better in a superficial or societal sense, but about becoming real in a profound psychological and spiritual way. Individuation requires that we encounter, integrate, and reconcile all parts of ourselves, the conscious and unconscious, the light and the shadow, the masculine and feminine within. When viewed through this lens, a soul contract is not just a mystical agreement with fate. It is the psyche's blueprint for growth. To break it is to attempt to skip essential parts of the journey. And yet the psyche, with its deep intelligence, will not allow that to happen. Individuation is not linear. It unfolds in spirals, often repeating themes with greater depth and nuance. When you try to bypass a painful lesson, the psyche doesn't let it go. Instead, it brings the theme back, sometimes through different people, sometimes through inner crisis. This is not cruelty. It is coherence. The self is always trying to become whole, and it knows what you need even when your ego resists it. The path you avoid becomes the very path you are forced to walk again, not because of punishment, but because of inner necessity. Breaking a soul contract can take many forms: leaving a relationship prematurely, rejecting a calling, denying a part of yourself, or choosing comfort over truth. Each time, the ego may feel relief, but the deeper self knows what was left behind. The rupture creates a psychic imbalance, and the psyche corrects that imbalance by drawing in experiences that represent the lesson. This is the return of destiny through other doors. The symbols may change, but the meaning does not. Jung believed that the psyche is self-regulating. That means when something is repressed, denied, or abandoned, it will eventually resurface in another form. Nightmares, synchronicities, repeating life events, inner restlessness, these are all signs that individuation is trying to continue. Soul contracts exist to support this process. They place us in situations that challenge our false selves, dissolve illusions, and force us to confront truths we would otherwise avoid. When those contracts are broken, the psyche doesn't give up. It adapts. But the pressure often intensifies, creating emotional or spiritual crises that demand attention. This is why the same themes return: the toxic relationship, the creative block, the emotional wound. They appear again, not because you failed, but because the psyche refuses to leave you fragmented. It insists on wholeness. Individuation is not optional for those who seek inner peace. It is the path that leads out of repetition and into resolution. And the universe, in alignment with your deeper self, ensures that you keep moving forward, even when you think you've taken a step back. When a soul contract involves another person, its breaking can feel like betrayal or abandonment, but often it is a deeper invitation to claim what that person represented within you. When a soul contract involves purpose, such as a creative calling, a spiritual mission, or a role in the world, walking away from it may seem like escape, but eventually it leads to emptiness. That emptiness is the psyche's reminder that your path still awaits. Destiny doesn't vanish because it is ignored. It waits, patiently, until the pain of avoidance becomes greater than the fear of facing it. Jung reminded us that the unconscious will find a way to be heard, if not through insight, then through suffering, if not through symbols, then through symptoms. This isn't a threat, it's a truth about how the psyche operates. Breaking a soul contract does not mean you're lost forever. It means the next chapter must begin where the last one left off. The universe brings the lesson back, not to shame you, but to liberate you from the cycles, from the illusions, from the false beliefs that keep you small. To fulfill a soul contract is not to follow a script, but to answer a call. It is to listen when life whispers and to surrender when it demands transformation. The psyche, aligned with your destiny, will not let you settle for half-truths. The journey may be delayed, but it cannot be denied. And when you finally say yes, you discover that everything repeated, everything returned, was simply the soul waiting for you to come home. Every cycle, Every repeated relationship, every haunting emotion that refuses to fade, is not a punishment, it's a message. The unconscious does not forget the work your soul came here to do. In Jungian thought, the psyche strives for wholeness, not convenience. So when you break a soul contract, the lesson doesn't disappear. It evolves, reconfigures, and returns, waiting for you to meet it with consciousness. The patterns you face are not traps. They are invitations to reclaim the parts of yourself that you've lost, denied, or feared. Individuation is not a concept reserved for the few. It is the path of anyone willing to look inward and live with authenticity. To fulfill your inner agreements is to participate fully in your transformation. And when you finally answer the call, the repetition ends. Not because the world changes, but because you have. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and watch the next video showing on your screen right now. It's the next step in deepening your journey. Your soul is not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to begin again, with new eyes, new strength, and a heart open to integration.